Oh, well, actually, I do need to make sure that I'm actually live. Hold on. I think I should be good. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah, we don't just assume that we're going to be good. I don't have the control panel on my OBS at the moment because I needed to log in and I didn't feel like doing that and all that kind of good stuff. So here we are. Doing some more ability stuff because everybody in the Discord keeps voting for me to do ability stuff, and well, I don't necessarily mind doing it, so we're going to be doing that. We still have a few abilities on the list that I could be doing. Let me open up Obsidian right here. So we have the to-dos. So we have the electric smackdown, which is mostly going to be a animation-based type of deal. So preferably last out of this list. The meteor strike, which is going to be mostly a Niagara-based type of deal. I think. I don't really know how I'm going to deal with it. Actually, that's a fantastic question, because what's going to need to happen for that one is we'll need to have like a portal that it comes down out of. So effectively, from a side view, it's going to be like a sphere with a material on it, and that sphere is likely going to need to have some sort of mask. We have like the portal here, a mask that like moves up it or down it depending on how we set things up. That reveals the meteor as it comes through, because we don't want like this part of the meteor to be visible on the other side of the portal. But then we also need that to go down to the ground, make an impact, and actually generate like a damage event around its impact. So we can't fully do this in Niagara, because obviously we can't drive the damage event from Niagara. So that's a really good question. How are we gonna do that? So this probably just needs to be like a actor, right? The meteor itself, probably, that's a really bad am, hold on. That's an even worse am. The Mario itself needs to probably like be an actor, because this is gonna like need to figure out when it's overlapping with the ground, and then it needs to do a boom. So then what do we do? I guess this actor spawns in the portal at its like bottom location. So we make this thing, I guess, anchored to its bottom. And then I suppose, as long as we know that it takes like X amount of time to do this movement until it's through the portal, we can just animate that value through like a timeline on its material. And then after that, it can do whatever it wants. But that means that we're probably not going to be using a projectile component. For this, we probably are just going to like delta this thing every frame hard-coded just to always go down. Okay, so that's how we probably would set that up. We'll probably do that one first. Then we have doing spikes between the player and the target. So we already have like, if we have like our target, our player, we already have one that does like spikes all around in a couple of like different stages. Now we just need to also make a variant that kind of like does this, right? Just like sends a trail of spikes to the closest enemy with a limit on the distance, I would hazard to say. Tentacles from the ground, again, we're going to also skip that one because it requires me to actually like figure out fabric. which I really need to do at some point. And then zero gravity is probably just going to be an ability that gets forcefully triggered on the enemy, is what I'm thinking. So those are kind of the plans. I think we're going to start with the meteor strike because I have like the most ideas for that. Hey, today I had some post-process materials in a camera in Blueprint. 6 in total for a signal or a like VHS effect. I need to edit these materials, blend weight, and scale parameters during runtime. Any suggestions? So yes, I do have something along those lines as well. My current solution is to create a dynamic material with weightable materials. Now you can just set the blend of the post-processing material. Well, maybe not the material. I don't know about the material directly. But you can set the blend of the post-processing volume. So you'd probably... if you can make it into separate post-processing volumes, that might not be possible either. But if you make it into separate post-processing volumes, I have something like that for... Let's just go into my boss level for this, because this is what happens exactly when I like beat a boss. It goes like all gloomy, and I just interpolate in a post-processing volume as a whole. I tried to do that, I think, with the material at some point, and that did actually seem more trouble. So if you have 6 effects in total, if those don't need to be on the exact same... Well, I guess if you want to individually enable and disable those, they would need to be on 6 different processing volumes, which might be annoying. If it's just 6 different effects that you want to like toggle in at once, you just toggle in the entire like post-processing volume. But in here we have the sub levels. So let's look into 08 boss, because when that guy dies, we have some stuff that happens. I just don't remember yet. So here we have the slow motion timeline. So this sets the for me also the global time dilation to something somewhere. But we also have this post-processing volume, and that just has a variable called blend weight that you can just set. So in my case, I just do a timeline where I set that from a value to a different value. And then when it's entirely finished, I set it just back to 0 again, because that just disables it. So that's how I deal with that personally. But that's only for the entire volume, right? So materials, like there isn't really like much that we can do with that, I don't think, with individual materials on a post-processing volume. So essentially, when the actor gets too far away from the objective, it gets a worse signal, and screen signal noise needs to intensify. I mean, that does sound like your material is actually like doing something different, right? That's more than just blending in and out, I would argue. Because this is just an alpha. This is just setting the opacity. So if you want to have a little bit of static, that's something that the material itself is going to need to drive. Not the post-processing volume, because the only thing the post-processing volume can do is set the opacity of that noise, I think. So you would need to do that with material parameters. You can do that with a dynamic material parameter, but the issue there is, I think, like setting these with dynamic material parameters also is a bit of a pain. So what you can do instead is use a parameter collection. So you have a material parameter collection, right? There you can set your scalar parameter for instance, the like noisiness. It's just going to be a scalar parameter like anything else. And this is now global throughout your entire project. So if I set... Well, no, actually... Well, we can do that. So if I make a parameter collection here real quick, collection, I don't remember what they're called. Parameter collection, something like that. What the hell are they called? Did I just misspell it? I hate this. Material parameter collection. There we go. I just misspelled it. If I just set this to my new material parameter collection, I can just pull this in and set like scalar, I think. Set scalar parameter value. You give that in. You can actually just do that directly without needing to be a variable. It's kind of nice. So that, and now we get a drop-down menu, so noisiness. You can set that through code this way, and then in your material, so you have like fucking some material somewhere. Let's go to basic demon material, basic enemy material. What you can do is you get a collection parameter, and you can choose your collection and then take the parameter out of that. So now we can get that value from that asset and use it in our shader. So that's an easy way to set global values. Especially if like multiple different materials need to use like the same value. If you have something like a raininess in your game, right? Raininess might mean something different in like your water shader. It might like need to like start generating ripples in it, versus against like your general like material like master material shader. That might just need to set the roughness a little lower because everything needs to be a little bit more shiny. Same with windiness. That's one of those things. If you have like a weather system, if you have like a grass material that has like world vertex offset stuff, it might be like more wavy if the windiness is higher. But if you have a water material, it might be wavy. All that kind of stuff. So that's a really neat way to do that. I think that's probably the route that I would go with this. Just have a material parameter collection and set those parameters based on that distance. And then in the material, you probably clamp that still, I would imagine. But that way, you still have it dynamically change without needing to set it as like a dynamic material. Which, I mean, setting it as a dynamic material also works. Probably would make more sense to use a material collection and general post-processing separately for my project. Probably add a signal strength parameter to all 6 materials. Yeah, so there's like, if all 6 materials are like separate materials and they all share that one value and they're always going to like sample from that same place, this is effectively just like a static value, right? This is just a value that globally exists. So they can all sample that same value and they'll all, like they'll never be out of sync as well, and that's kind of nice. You do give up a little bit of like artistic freedom with that, because then if you do want to have a situation where one of them is a little different from the others, well, you can't. But it's entirely up to what like you need. But yeah, material parameter collections, I don't really like use them in this project at all at the moment. I should, but I don't really like see much of a reason yet for me to use them. I haven't really run into any of them yet. But yeah, that's probably what I'd look into. Speaking of materials, I probably also should like at some point look into the idea that I had in the Discord last week or this week, or life's been crazy, man. I don't know when weeks start and when they end, and I just opened the level that I was already in, so who the fuck even am I? about like my character is supposed to have glowing eyes, right? Like he doesn't, but there's supposed to be like 2 glowing eyes behind here. If you look at the Steam page, Deltarune? Hold on. Is Deltarune finished? June 4th. Deltarune is finished. Like it's out. It's like finished. It's a what the hell? Okay. I know what I'm going to be doing this weekend. Cool. Anyway. If you look at the Steam page for my dude, the icon has the glowing eyes in it because I just like painted those in Photoshop at the time. But I've entirely forgotten to actually like give them to the character. So yeah, that's not great. May I want to remove what you... Oh yeah, that's true. That's... You can just force delete that, that's fine. That's a good thing. Don't leave things hanging around. Material enemy already deleted that, yeah. So yeah, Deltarune, okay. So that's kind of got me messed up. I haven't even like actually finished the like demo chapters. I think I like got halfway through, like chapter 3 is the last one that released. And then I got distracted doing something else. And I never went back. But I did have it on Steam Deck. Did I do that on Switch or on Steam Deck? That's the question, right? Because I really hope that I did it on Steam Deck. Because I don't want to play it on Switch, because Steam Deck is nicer. Anyway, so the thing that we were actually going to do is the meteor attack, right? So let's get started with... Still need to finish Undertale. Wow, you should. You definitely should. Like, don't necessarily need to do a genocide route, is what I always say. Like, if you've done the pacifist, you've finished Undertale. If you've done a neutral, you've kind of finished Undertale. You don't need to, like, consider doing the genocide to, like, really consider it being finished. I feel like the genocide is just, you like the game so much, here's some more content for you to do. And it becomes, like, stupidly difficult. I don't really consider that part of the game experience itself. That's just like... The genocide run as a whole is just a super boss. If that makes sense to me. But yeah, no, just for like the neutral run, if nothing else. Pacifist run, which if you just like do the neutral run pacifistically, that's just like... You get both, more or less. It's definitely worth it. It's like actually one of my favorite games. Which is not a like hot take at all. I don't know, do we have any like particular one that I can copy over that has some stuff pre-set up? Not really. So I just copy over a random one. Meteor. And now let's hope Sephiroth didn't hear that. Because he's gonna stab me. Because he likes meteors. And I like like 5-minute cutscenes for a single attack. I failed pacifist at the very start, loaded the game, Flower made fun of me. Oh, you killed the... Did you kill like the dummy? Oh no, there's just normal... There's just normal enemies in the ruins as well, isn't there? Yeah. Especially if you're playing this for the first time and you aren't like aware of the whole pacifism thing, and you like, okay, this is just an RPG. You don't even think about like listening tutorial about not killing things. You kill a couple of enemies before you actually realize what's going on, and then at that point you're like, look out of the like proper pacifist run. So like you're not alone in that at all. That makes a lot of sense. Again, I think... I don't know why I'm like manually ending ability. That's what commit ability already does, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so we're gonna get rid of all this. And then if we can commit ability, what we do is... Can I like look at the source code for this, please? I would actually like to know. Anyway. Are you Dutch by any chance? I am. Yeah. Not super regularly that people guess that first time, but welcome. So yeah, I think all that this ability really needs to do is spawn in the meteor thing. So guess let's do that. Meteor. Now let's think, because I want to do this as a sphere. And we spawn a Niagara system. So I'm talking difficult. So what I'm making right now is a meteor strike attack. So the basic idea behind that would be we have like a meteor that comes in through like a portal. So a portal effect opens up and then a meteor comes through. At some point it hits the ground and like does damage to all enemies that it hits, right? So that's pretty basic, all things considered. It's only the initial like coming through the portal that I'm a little bit nervous about. So that's probably what we're going to be spending most time on today, I would guess. But fuck if I know. Anyway, event tick. We're going to need that as well, because we are going to add actor location, local offset, sure. It's going to be delta time times the speed of this thing. Just make the speed a variable. I don't know if 100 might be a little slow. But I suppose we can just put one of these things in the world and test, right? How much is 100? That makes sense. Let's multiply it with -1 as well. And try again. Yeah, 100 is probably pretty good. Once this thing is a little bit bigger as well, right? That's probably fine. So we get actor location, and then we need to like make that portal. And I don't know how we're gonna do the portal thing. Well, one way to find out. Question is, does this need to be a particle system, or yeah, we probably want to make a particle system for that. So let's make a Niagara system. Just make an empty one. I'm super happy that the Prismatica Dev YouTube channel actually made a video this week on using Scratchpad, because I've been meaning to look into that, and it's actually super easy, it turns out. At least like the basics of it are. So fx meteor portal. So how about a portal opens up, some mask material on the plane surface or something that spawns for the other side of the portal, spawn meteor mesh with a vector attached to the meshes. I don't really see where we're going with that, because the thing that, like, aside from just I don't really know how I want the portal to like look like. I don't really have like a clear vision for that at the moment. We can just like Google some like fantasy portal images and we'll probably like get something. Aside from that, like, it's actually the material itself is probably not going to be that big a deal for the meteor, right? Because if we go maybe post-process to indicate the heat or arcane force of the spell. Screen shake. Yeah, that's all like plush stuff that we like don't care about right now. But like the meteor material isn't going to be that difficult. Like meteor, right? As long as we have our UVs kind of in order, we can just get a like gradient, like linear gradient, and use the V gradient, right? That's just a 0 to 1. And we just use that as the mask for a material. Put that into the opacity mask. And then set our mask value to be like, well, 1. Well, actually maybe 0. I always forget how this works. Yeah, that needs to be 0. Never mind. Well, I guess it can be either. So we have our UV thing, and then we just like subtract from it. And then if we are like 50% through, we maybe we add to it. Instead of subtracting, hold on. So yeah, this is at 1. This will be at 50%. This will be at 0%. We just need to do it the other way around from like top to bottom. But we can just rotate the mesh. That's not that big a deal. And then we can, of course, just make this a like parameter. Mask position. And I think we could even do this with like the like local position as well, if we really wanted to. It's actually probably better to do that way, to be honest with you, because if we do local position, and we don't do the opacity mask, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so that's probably not great, because local position is like immediately like more than 1 and immediately more than 0. So we'd need to like divide this by like 500 or something like that to make this more of a gradient. So yeah, I don't think that's necessarily ideal. And then also like add a number to it, and that's going to be like different for every radius that we can make. So that's not ideal. I think the gradient is probably the better idea. So yeah, let's stick with that for now, and we can just kind of pretend like here it's brown, so it's a rock. So yeah, at 0 it's that, and like let's just make it 0.5 by default. Ooh, that's the wrong channel. Hold on. There we go. Yeah. So that's not that big a deal. Like we can just animate that. We can like I can even just do that right now. Sphere, like on begin play. We do all that. We create dynamic. If I can fucking type it, that is. Material instance. Source material will be the meteor. Wait, can you just create it directly on here? Well, we actually... Huh, I didn't know that. We promoted a variable, material, and then we instantly just like timeline that shit from flow track 0, 0 to 1, 1. We're just going to do it over the course of a second for now. We can always change that around later. Use last keyframe here. And then we take the material, set scalar, parameter value. What the hell did I call it to begin with? Mask position. It goes from 0 to 1. And now it should. There we go. It is just as easy as that for this. Like, that is not the biggest issue. Actually, that was one of the biggest issues. I'm lying. Let's make this like delayed a little bit so that you can actually see it like starting as well. And then I'm just gonna set this to be like time 4 so that it takes a bit longer. And we can see that's the basic ID. So, I actually do think that going in for a Google for like fantasy, like doomsday portals or whatever, you know what? I'm gonna chat GPT it. Can you make a image of a horizontal portal in the sky from which a magical meteor is appearing? It's supposed to be a dark fantasy style world. Let's see what ChatGPT does. This is exactly the type of shit where generative AI is actually kind of useful. It's also wasteful to use GPU resources on this, but it ain't my GPU, so who cares? Well, the environment cares, I suppose, but it's also like super slow, so it's actually not using that much, surely. Like if I actually like just boot up Comfy UI and I run this on my local GPU, it's so much faster. It's kind of unreal. You see what I did there? Unreal. I'm so funny. So yeah, it's kind of like getting there. It's taking a moment. We're getting there. So yeah, the general idea, I think, is here it's just like the parting of the clouds. It's kind of like the feel that you want to have, and then have some like fiery stuff in there as well. I kind of think that makes sense. Let's see if we like, let's try 3 more variants with different looks, some less dark, some with different, more detailed magical portals. Ask ChatGPT to make a logo for an experiment did not get done for 3 hours. That's insane. Like, I don't even have Plus and it doesn't take that long. It's kind of dumb with asking for multiple pictures though, because I asked for like do 3 or 4 more, or specifically 3 more, and I think it's only generating 1. But it might be generating 1 image with 3 meteors in it now, because I do see like 3 blobs of darkness in here. It's also a different aspect ratio. This one's portrait mode, at least more portrait mode than the last, which was square. So yeah, this one has kind of like a electric Doctor Strangey type of vibe. I don't like that. I don't like that super arcane vibe to it. I do want it to be like a little more like demonic feeling. This feels a bit too arcane. I prefer a more demonic feel to the portal, like the meteor is striking from a hell. dimension opening up. I misspelled literally every word in that. So, oh well. Let's see what it asks, what it gives me when I literally ask to show like hell opening up in the sky. In the meantime, I can be relatively sure that the first thing that we're going to be spawning in here is going to be a mesh. Well, it might actually not be a mesh, because it's going to be a plane, isn't it? Yeah, that's definitely... That's going to be a sprite, I would imagine. Maybe we actually... what I was thinking is that we have like one plane that has like a circle opening up in it, because I already just have a material for that. What did I call it? Like pulse something? Nope. Dark something. I can find it. Hold on. It's one of these. So yeah, it's this effect. And I think it's these sprite renderers, right? Jaws impact wave. I use it for the Jaws thing. I don't think I actually ended up using it for that. But anyway, on Inventor update, we spawn bursts instantaneous. We spawn one. Yeah, that's not that good either, to be honest with you. ChatGPT is getting better at like making variants of the same image though. Because the background is exactly the same. It did actually only change like the portal and the general vibe, but it has more or less the same castle in the background every single time, in the same like that tree in the same position, with only like super minor differences. It's actually like getting pretty good at that. Yeah, I know. I'm not like pulling over ChatGPT every single time I want to show something that I'm not actually like that bothered by. So the idea was that if we have like this, right? We have updates, particle states, update states. There we go, particle state. Dynamic material parameters, particle spawn, init, particle. Then in the dynamic material parameters, we have these two things for this material, which is the outer radius of this circle, which can height loop in and out, and then the inner radius. And I think that's kind of everything we have going for that material, if I remember correctly, and the color, of course. But this didn't have like any swirling to it, right? No. To be honest, we could probably just reuse part of the... I think it's this. If nothing else, like for right now, we could probably like reuse this portal to be like 1000% real with you. Like it's not that good. But we definitely could. So let's just like rename this portal, like darkness portal or something like that. And then is there anything else that we want to have that with it as well? I think it's these, right? Yes. Portal opening. Don't need that one necessarily, I don't think. I do on that one. Portal edge. And then this is just the impact, and this is the actual skeletal mesh. Okay. So we're gonna copy over these three. I know that I should make them assets. What are you gonna do? Gonna try to stop me? Here we are. So all we need to do is... Wait, why does this one not have... Oh, that's the wrong thing. Let's copy over this one. We just need those to go down. So in the portal opening, we just add velocity. -5. There we go. And we have a portal that opens up. So that takes about half a second to open up. And then let's say that we take about a second to make the thing come out. This is going to be the difficult part, matching that up properly. So maybe adding a bit more than just what's effectively a plane might be good. Guess I'm going the Unreal Engine wave. I mean, Unreal Engine is kind of like a nice thing. We kind of like it. Sometimes. Sometimes we don't. When it's being a bitch. Which it does do. Don't lie to yourself. It does do that. So yeah, let's say that after about this point, it should close again. So that effectively just means that we need to like set a lifetime for these particles to be like 2 seconds, I guess. Right? Because that's like 1.5 to... maybe even a little shorter. Maybe a little longer. Because I do want this to also... I think this is the... one of these is the curve that sets how like far along it is in... Yeah, so that's probably this one. I would imagine. Yeah. And this is the like swirling rotation. Speed. It's the swirling rotation speed. Yeah, I can kind of live with the way that this works now. It's just, this is also a little too fast, so we probably need that to be slowed down as well. But then at that point, like, when does it actually start, like, disappearing at 175-ish? And it's finished coming in at about 1.5, 1.7 still. So that actually gives us about a second for it to pass through. That's pretty good, I think. Maybe it could stand to like hang around a little bit longer, but I think let's just test this, because we don't want to spend all day just doing Niagara effects, do we? I mean, if we do that, I can do that. I like doing that. I probably should give it a name, to be fair. So yeah, let's say that that takes about... We said it's going to take about 1 second, but we do need to, once we spawn this thing in, wait for like 0.6 seconds for this to start. And I think I'm also going to make this wait like 2 seconds for testing purposes before it actually like does any of this. I will be amazed if this looks anywhere near close to what it should look like, but... Okay, so that's just downright the wrong system. So yeah, that's... maybe not ideal. Let's try again. Yeah, so no. It spawns it in and then... oh, that's the thing. It shouldn't be moving until... give me a moment. Give me a moment. Gonna move a couple of things around here. Because we want this to just be set to 0 at the start. Don't know why I was being annoying about that. And then we'll just add a can move bool. And once it's allowed to start moving, we'll make it start moving. We'll play from start, sure. And then we check here if we can move. If we cannot, well, we don't. So that should improve things a little bit. We do need to actually provide you the material instance that you're going to be working on. Okay, so yeah, obviously not great. Obviously not great. Let's set our speed to something... well, actually, let's set this back to 1 second first, because I set this to 4 seconds for testing purposes. Holy shit, okay, that actually works remarkably well. What does it look like when I can see the top, though? Because I might have just pulled those numbers out of my ass successfully. I mean, that's not that bad. It's really not that bad. It just needs to be a slight bit faster. But that is remarkably close already. Like if we just make this like 0.8 seconds or something. Doesn't need to be perfect either. We're going to spawn in some more extra particles to like make sure that any weird like edge cases aren't visible either, of course. Oh, it actually needs to be slower. Turns out that I'm just stupid. So let's make this 1.15. That seemed pretty perfect, man. That is pretty perfect. Oh, wow. We actually nailed that. I am kind of amazed about that, not gonna lie. But that is sweet. Okay, yeah, so the timing for that is effectively now finalized, I would argue. So if we just don't like touch the timing for this and just add in more stuff on top, like we can just add in a new emitter, make that like a fountain emitter. That just does, I don't know, a vortex force. Spawn location will be a disk. Make a joke version of a spell where it drops from a portal and it's stinky poop emoji. Nope. I mean, I like the idea, but I'm not going to do it, but I like the idea. So yeah, let's not have like a gravity force with this one necessarily. And not add in an initial velocity. And instead of doing a disk for this, I think it probably makes sense to do a cylinder. Let's give it a little bit of height. First, radius. That's the annoying part about it using a cylinder, isn't it? Surface only. It's only to be on the outside surface is the thing. Use curve to lathe the exterior of the cylinder. I don't know, maybe that does the opposite of what I wanted to do. Oh. But what if we pull this up, this down, and that up? That still doesn't do what I wanted to do. I don't know what this does. So I guess we do use the ring, and then can we like add in an offset or something? That would be ideal if we could. Scale mode, offset mode. I guess offset. We can add in, make a vector. I guess we just make this random. Between like -50 and +50. Maybe even less. Minus like 25 and +25. And can we solo these? Is that a thing that we can do? Yes. Okay, so now I need this to animate in its radius. I do that for the portal opening. How do I do that for the portal opening? That's a fantastic question. We do this with the normalized loop H. Hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to say, you are very nice. And you are now also in there. But it's looping. Okay, that might not be the best. Do we have like a system H? Let's see what that feels like. I guess we can just multiply, clamp, multiply system H by like our number for speed, and then we clamp it between 0 and something. I guess this needs to also spawn more. Like, let's make this spawn like 250. And then I also do think that they are maybe a little long-lived compared to the rest of the system. So like 0.7 to 0.9 maybe instead. And then give them more of a vortex, like pushing them out as well. So origin pull amount, well, vortex force amount is what I probably just need to increase, like 500. Let's do like 750. And then set this to minus 200. And I'll do it for this long. You loop infinite. We don't want that. Oh, and now the loop. Yeah, okay. It'd be funny if the boss casts a dramatic spell in a moment. Witness the true power of the strongest spell ever to be cast, followed by a huge. Yeah. I mean, that'll be fun for like a satirical type of game. Like if you're making a comedy game, but I'm like bad at comedy. So let's retry using this. Like I started. Hello? Oh, I did copy again. I'm an idiot. Like there's a reason that I started programming. Because make me seem smart because I'm not funny. That's pretty good. That seems pretty good. Now if we initialize the particles to just be a bunch bigger, so let's say like 25 to 45, maybe even bigger than that to be honest with you, like 30 to 50, might be a bit too big. And then give them essentially just the material that I made for this other thing. Not this thing, this thing. Because this omnidirectional burst has like this. Well, actually, it's probably the material that I'm using for that as well. Let me look at that. Called a hell smoke. So fucking creative. That seems like a good start. It does need to have like a little bit more of this to it. It's definitely fading out like quite quickly, but that's an issue with scale color. I think scale color can just do that and we should be pretty like good to go. I think increase the drag as well. And then obviously we also like scale the actual like color. Can we like do that from curve? We can. So from like a purple. Ah, it's additive, isn't it? That might not be ideal. That might not be ideal. So I guess we can make a copy of this where it's just not additive. It's just masked. Copying over assets is starting to take like a while on this project. So we're waiting for a copy action right now. Let's call this helm smoke mask. And we just make this masked instead. I probably do want this to be two-sided though. And just put this into there. That should be all, I think. Put it in there. Yeah, that's a bit more like what I was thinking. Because now we can actually like use darker colors as well. So when it's additive, when it's darker, it just like doesn't add as much, right? Now, there's one thing that I do want to do, and that's this division here. Make that a dynamic parameter. Use parameter 1. I don't know, the default be set back to 200. Sure. Reason being is I want to be able to like influence the scale of the noise, because I think the noise is a little like too fine grained. I think they need to be like bigger, like chunks. So if we just set a dynamic material parameter for that, we can set this to a higher and higher and higher value. Oh, that actually makes them... No, higher value means more rough. So until we get enough detail to the point where it like makes sense again. But that they're not like straight up just circles. Kind of feel like this might be it. I think that there's still a little too much just circles. Oh, but we also probably can pull back the scale color a little bit now that we're doing it this way. It's init particle even bigger, I feel, honestly. And just more. I think just more also works. But I think that kind of does it. I do feel like the vortex force needs to still be more though. Because it needs to have a little bit of that like spewing out stuff, right? And it needs to kind of match the rotational speed of the shader that we have on the middle part. Wait, did I delete the medias out? I did. That's why I'm not spawning in. That's on me. That's on me. I think it's an asset, right? The meteor. I like that. Enough for now, anyway. So that means that now we actually need to like start doing stuff with it. So I guess we also put in a collider. Sphere collider. Suppose we parent that to the mesh. Make it a little bigger than the mesh. Make sure it generates overlap events. It does. Good. Then, when we overlap, which I removed for reasons. Hello? Am I just blind? Oh, I didn't remove it. It's just there. Sweet. Effectively, when it overlaps with anything, it should trigger, right? I guess it... Yeah. Level geometry, enemies, and that's kind of everything. It could potentially... Maybe not projectiles. Maybe it should ignore projectiles. For now, it's just gonna... Whenever it overlaps with anything. Whenever it overlaps with anything, we just spawn in, again, a thing. In this case, it's going to be like an explosion. So let's just do like... I don't know. I have a bunch of pre-made stuff that I don't even know what it looks like. Does this look cool? Definitely not going to look like thematically correct for the meteor. So compile your shaders, please. Oh yeah, definitely not. Definitely, that's not it. We'll make something in a moment. Let's just... Impact, sure. And we destroy this actor. And then we also apply damage to whatever... Well, actually what we do is we, for each loop... No, we sphere overlap actors. I'll get there, I promise. That's component, that's the wrong function. Sphere overlap actors, we make this array, we check for everything that is a pawn, we start that at actor location, sphere radius, let's say everything within like 750 units gets damaged. So for each loop, apply damage, my own damage thing, and we'll limit this to enemies. Base damage, variable, knockback, let's make it variable, I guess. Piercing damage is a thing that doesn't exist anymore because we don't have defense anymore. Took that out. And I guess meteor makes sense to be fire damage, right? And then once that is complete, we destroy this actor. So in theory, this should now destroy itself when it hits the ground and spawn in a boom. There we go. Okay. Then all we need to do is probably make both of these expose and spawn. Spawn actor from class. And I guess what we do is if... Well, let's do committability at the very beginning, because I want to do things differently. I wanted to initially build in protection against using spells when there's no enemies nearby. But I think when there's no enemies nearby, they should just have a default behavior for anything that's like homing in on nearby enemies. So in this case, it would just spawn in the thing a certain like distance in front and above. So we disconnect that. This one, however, we still do keep connected in case anything else is trying to like run this, which shouldn't, but you never know. So I've closed enemy. I guess we make a like target location. Because if closest enemy is valid, that'll just get the location from that enemy. And otherwise what we do is, I guess we get this. We do a line trace by channel from our player's location plus get actor forward vector. Actor forward vector gets multiplied by a distance. So let's say 400 units. Again, the ancient art of pulling numbers out of your ass. And then also we add in like 500 units in the sky. Let's make that like 600 units in the sky. Well, no, actually it doesn't need to be that at all. Like, let's just make that 100 units and then like minus this. Doesn't even need to minus that actually. No, we can just get active forward location. Because all the like height offset is going to be based on what we do with this target location in a moment, I think. So just set the target location to be, hey, 400 units in front. And the reason that I'm not using like line traces is because if you're like on an edge, right? If I were to do it the way that I was gonna do it, if you're standing here and you use it, it's gonna line trace down to here, assuming that it even hits here, and then it's gonna spawn here, which is gonna look very dumb. So it should spawn here and then move down instead of spawning there and moving down. Then if you're looking at like a enemy, if you have an enemy inside, it should always spawn above your like focused on enemy. But either way, the target location is relatively like on plane with the player if there's no like closest enemy. But then what we do is we spawn actor from class, meteor, spawn transform gonna get split, and then we'll get the target location, and here we're gonna add a bit of offset in height. Let's say 600 units. Maybe we want to do a line trace up to make sure that it doesn't like instantly overlap with like the ceiling, but in the most cases that probably won't matter that much. And then the base damage and knockback. I guess the base knockback can be like pretty high for this one. And the base damage can be our actor, get ability, system components, get attribute, float, magic strength. And let's multiply that with, this is going to be pretty strong, I imagine. So let's multiply this by like 75. Again, pull the numbers out of your ass. And then we just end the ability, honestly. Because we don't need the ability to wait around for this to have hit or anything. Because the actor itself for the meteor is kind of like dealing with everything after the fact. We just need this ability to spawn it in at the right location, and that's it. So that should be the basic concept of the meteor spell. Might as well just like pull in the ChatGPT image I made for it, right? Well, I didn't make it, ChatGPT made it, obviously. At least temporarily. Of course, a bunch of this stuff is going to naturally get replaced over time with like actual art assets, but right now, GPT stuff is better than no stuff. So let's just pull it into like, I don't know, textures. And then in the spells, did I already copy it? I don't think I already copied it. Oh, you can't copy these assets for some reason. I don't know why, but you need to duplicate them. Meteor. It's a lot of birds. Can you hear them? I can. It's the wrong spell. Meteor. There. ChatGPT. Probably actually honestly, like, can I just zoom in, like, in editor on this? I don't think I can, right? Yeah, I don't really like padding resizing. I don't think I can crop into this image in Unreal. Fair, Unreal isn't an image editor, to be fair, so probably like not that big a deal. Let's make sure that this thing does run the meteor ability though. And the meteor ability itself is going to have to be like fairly expensive, I imagine. The cost right now, let's just set it to a full 3 MP that we have by default. It's probably going to be more than the default 3 MP. Because I want this to be a powerful spell. So I probably won't even allow you to do it with the default amount of MP. That's what I'm thinking right now. Oh, my dude is just looping that animation. Yeah. It's a pretty rough animation, okay? Meteor. Let's see. So if we just use it right here. It definitely shouldn't be casting a shadow. And it also shouldn't have that initial delay anymore. That was just for testing. So that initial 2-second delay, definitely don't have that. And I also think that I want to change the speed after the timeline is done. With, and this is going to be kind of weird, another timeline. Where it takes another like 1 second or so. That's not the kind of track that I want. I wanted to have a flow track. So where it takes another 1 second or so to speed up a little bit. So I think what we want to do is like 0, 0. I'm just going to do 1, 1 because it's easy. But then I want this to like loop my speed from the default, which is I think 100, to, let's make a double over that second. And then, yeah, so that thing is still casting a shadow, even though I hadn't really considered how to deal with that. Because the material is getting like clipped, but the thing itself is still casting a shadow. Can we do anything about that in here? I don't know. Cast shadow as masked. That might be it. That might indeed be it. Nope. Also just does need to speed up more, man. Just not fast enough still. Also needs to be bigger, I feel. Oh, but if it needs to be bigger, it might also... Yeah, if it needs to be bigger, it needs to be faster to begin with as well. So yeah, let's actually like set the scale of this to be like twice as big. Then obviously it needs to start right there. But then I also need to start off as twice as fast. So... And hopefully that'll roughly line up with the timing of the whole system. And then we interpolate this from 200 to 400. So it's still a doubling, but it's in absolute values a lot more. I kind of feel like that's pretty decent. it did speed up a little bit too fast. So let's make this 1.75. But that is, all things considered, pretty decent, I think. Because it does need to be like fast enough to the point where it actually like does an impact. I do need to go recharge my MP to cast it again though. Or I need to... Hello? So ideally you can like focus on something. And then cast that spell. And damage a bunch of shit. These guys still prefer not to die for some reason. I don't know why. But they just don't want to. So not sure what's going on there. But that's the basic idea of that ability, I guess. The idea of adding a post-processing volume to this also kind of fun though. So probably like let's just do that. Why not? Because you can just add in a post-process volume as part of this sphere, maybe. I don't know. Does this have like a... We'll use the parent U-shaped component to provide volume data if available. Okay, so we'll probably want that to be a separate volume. Is the sphere collider technically like a volume? Or a collider is something different? I think they're volumes. I guess we just gotta try it out, right? Let's add in a sphere collision with post-process, and then that sphere collision can be part of this, then have no generate overlap event. Default transform and just like be relatively much larger. Let's put the assets, put in a meteor. Okay, that's maybe a little larger than I would have liked it to be, but let's see if we do the post-processing here, color grading, like temperature, temp. Yeah, that works. Okay, cool. The way that we're going to do this, set this back to default, because I want to see what it looks like in the world, obviously. So that means that we have to put this to the side here. That's the ability. This is the actor. We have to put this to the side here, and then we can start working on all the default values for this stuff. Because just copying over the entire post-processing settings, I've tried in the past, doesn't do that well. So yeah, I like the idea of making it a little warmer, and then globally also maybe increasing contrast. Maybe even give it a little bit of gain, not that much. Can we add more contrast only in certain color areas? That's actually kind of neat. That's... what the fuck? Let's just kind of keep these the same. I think the most important part is adding a like little ripply effect. Also, the camera shake ID is probably like nice to do. That's obviously not post-processing, that's just a camera shake. Add a little bit of extra bloom. Bloom doesn't really do that well, like in combination with the cell shading. But I like chromatic aberration, so like add in a bit of that. Not too much, but just a little. A little bit of this. Do we want to sharpen? I don't think we really need to sharpen. Unreal did not add and get reference icon to parameters and the detail. You can just like copy individual parameters over. Like that's not a problem. Like just like copy and paste, or like shift right click and shift left click. The issue is if you try to like do that on an entire post processing volume, that doesn't work for some reason. At least it didn't last time I tried, which is months ago. So maybe I fucked up somewhere. But yeah, I think that this is maybe just whenever we spawn in a meteor, we just enable Lumen. that could be fun. We're not going to do that. I mean, copy, click and gives you a reference to add to BP directly. Save so much time. So what do you want it to do? Get a reference icon to a parameter in the details panel. So where would you want that? Want just every like parameter being able to like reference any other like float or something like that? That would be kind of neat, I guess. If you could just tell this to always like look at some other values elsewhere. That would actually be really quite nice. But also that would probably add a lot of overhead, because then you like fundamentally make all of these always like pointers that need to like look at a different variable to populate themselves. And even if they need to like do a null pointer check, they like every property that needs to do a null pointer check, instead of just programming these only to be set like by the programmer when they need to like be set to a specific like dynamic thing. So I don't know. I don't know if that would actually like have a noticeable performance impact to like make everything parameterized that way. As in like make everything like referenced. Would kind of make sense that motion design doesn't have that issue though, because obviously that's not like necessarily real time. So even if it has a little bit more CPU cost. This is just like my guess as to what the difference might be. I don't know, again, if it probably doesn't make that much of a impact. At least not on a singular thing, but if like everything, everywhere has like pointers to other like potential places, you also like risk the issue of like creating a pointer that points to a pointer that points to a pointer and like chain that down. I can definitely see that like getting kind of messy in the code. But it would be kind of nice from like a user experience perspective. Anyway, let's try to make like a post-processing like material on top of this as well. So that would be ppm heat waves. And that can be pretty simple, probably, right? Because we can just, of course, set this to post-process. No, that's scene texture. I always wanted to just get post-processing input, but part of the scene texture node. They don't have to make it automatically. Yeah, but like fundamentally that means that they need every parameter to check a pointer. Right? So instead of just be a value. Which also like objects lifetimes might start fucking with that and stuff, but if you have like an object with like 100 floats in it, if this is just 100 floats, that's kind of it. And if something else needs to tell it, hey, your float number like 63 is now this value, this can still like operate pretty like independently. It doesn't like start running into issues when the thing that it is looking for suddenly like disappears, right? That might be a problem. Specifically in a game that is like dynamic. But also if all these 100 values need to like look at something else, even if they're not looking at something else, they need to check whether or not they should be looking at something else. Instead of just assuming that they like run with the value that they have. And if anything else needs to like influence that, it's their responsibility to override whatever value this thing is using. Yeah, but that's I don't know what the reasons are. I'm assuming that's an optimization thing, and it's like an ownership thing of the information, right? And in motion design, that probably just doesn't matter as much as it does in a dynamic game. If I understand what you mean correctly. I mean, the other thing that you said just now is where you just want to get like the XYZ scale as a reference in your blueprint. That much, like all those edit time things, I definitely do agree with that there's no reason for them not to do that. Like if I just go into fucking, I have a blueprint here somewhere. There we go. Like just being able to like pull this in from like the actor itself, just well, these are actually like mesh things, but that's still a good example. Like being able to just like pull this into the event graph as like just get capsule component like local or world location. I suppose you'd need to decide on whether or not dragging it in would give you local or world, but it could give you like just like you have when you do this, right? You get a get or a set. You can just get a little menu, I suppose, with the like different options like get local scale, set local scale, get world scale, that kind of stuff. Like that would be nice, yeah. Well, that is the exact reason that I at some point decided that if I have like an actor and I put it up to somewhere, I have an actor here, right? Surely somewhere. Yeah, so that's the exact reason that at some point I decided to like implement the thing where if I have an actor and I hook it up to a... Oh, that doesn't work. We're going to get there at some point, I promise you. If I have an actor reference in Blueprint and I hook it up to a vector pin, it just automatically adds in that get location node. And if I like hook it up to a rotator, it gets the rotation. When I hook it up to like a full transform, it gets the transform. like adding in those little tiny nodes. Because those nodes are just wrappers for the like existing functions that are just like on the actual library. It's just like automatically spawning them in when it sees like, hey, you're trying to put in type actor into type vector. That means you're probably trying to get a location. So let me give you the location. That's the exact reason that I made that. Because way too often do I need to type get actor location and then like pull things through, and Blueprint is like slow enough as it is. It's just annoying that scale is also a vector, so you can't like make it pick location or scale based on the limited information that you have there. Otherwise, I would also be able to do that. But we were doing a thing. I was doing a thing. Post-process input 0 goes into emissive color. But yeah, no, that kind of thing, that's like all that editor time stuff, there's no reason for them not to do that. I agree with that. Let's just see what happens if we add a sine wave to this. Probably going to be way too strong. Oh, this needs to have like time in it. Oh, I did multiply. That's that makes sense. Let's add that. And then this needs to pretty please be real time as well. Okay, that's not quite it. That makes sense because we want to like break. Mask. Sorry if you're getting motion sick over this. We'll figure this out in a moment. Hold on. There we go. I'm sorry about that. Working in blueprints in general is just a hassle. I mean, for a lot of things it is. That's why you need to be able to work in both Blueprint and C++ ideally, because there's a bunch of stuff that's just annoying to deal with in Blueprint because it's slow. But there's also a bunch of stuff that is much smoother and easier to set up in Blueprint. Like this whole like meteor setup that we created here, right? Where I like make use of just like linearly saying, hey, do this, then wait a certain amount of time. And then like play this timeline, which is just a self-contained little object that like runs its own tick and does the thing with like an output, and then once that entire timeline is complete, like do the next timeline. Like setting this up in C++ is not impossible, it's just much more of a headache than it is in Blueprint. But the other side is that like almost everything else is much more of a headache to do in Blueprint. You need to figure out how to get a proper reference to certain values. I mean, that is going to be like just that's just programming, to be honest. Like figuring out how you get information from point A to point B in a way that makes sense. So let's try to then do this, and then we append back in the green. It's not quite there yet. It's also the wrong way around because I think we want to do this with the green. And we append back in the green. And then we divide this by like a lot. like divide this by like 10, right? And that makes it shake up and down. Cool. So then what? This is just speed, right? You're just getting access to the post-processing material. I need to get post-process, get its settings, break, get blendable weights, break weights, get the array item. I mean, in that regard, I guess being able to just like say, hey, pull this in from your details panel into the blueprint graph would save a lot of time. Yeah. Like fundamentally, they can't really change that because what else do you like want them to do? Like have everything just as loose values, nothing like structured and structs? That doesn't seem like a great idea either. But like a system where you can like drag things in from the details panel into like blueprint graph. That would probably need to be like programmed per value, which would admittedly add a lot more bloat to the engine, I imagine. But not in a way that's probably noticeable compared to like everything the engine already is doing. For like the editor, like for in-game it doesn't matter because all of this would be editor time stuff. But you know, if you're doing this like a bunch of times, you can also just make your own blueprint function libraries that just get specific information out of a specific object and skip like the steps in between, right? But that only really helps if you're doing like one specific thing a bunch of times. Not with like a bunch of different things that all take like 3 steps that you need to do once. I imagine someone can literally make a plugin to get a reference and it needs to be editor only. I don't think that would work necessarily. Well, maybe it could. The issue is with what you're describing, I think what you would need to do isn't just getting a reference to the individual value. Because the issue is that Blueprint doesn't like support like float pointers and like vector pointers and that kind of stuff, right? In the same way. Aside from like within functions, it can take in like values by reference, which is essentially like a type pointer. But if I want to like pull in this ignore radial impulse, Blueprint doesn't have, as far as I'm aware, a way to like have a pointer to something that's not a U object. Obviously C++ can do that. So what it would need to do is it would need to have a function prepared to specifically get this value from this type of object. So you would need to have a wrapper function that just spawns in the right blueprint nodes for every single one of these options on every single thing that exists. So that would actually be like an immense amount of work. To the point where like changing the editor to like support pointers of different types might actually be easier, but I don't know how like deeply integrated that would be within Blueprint. Like referencing just like basic values, like Blueprint doesn't really do that unless no, you'd still need to do the same. Yeah. No, I think that's actually like it is a good amount of work that you would need to do that. From what I can imagine. Okay, so now how do I offset this to like actually create like a sine wave in like offset here? Because we can. I guess we get this, and then we do plus time divided by the speed that we want this to be at. So like, let's say 200. And then we put that into the sine node. That ain't doing shit. Is it because I'm defining this by too much? Yep. Okay, so that's my heat wave effect. There we go. So let's set this to, I don't know, like 5, and then this period to okay, this is kind of loopy, but I kind of like that. Make it slower though. Make it slower. Make it slower. And then make it less extreme. I mean, I agree that it would be a nice feature. I don't know that it necessarily would be worth it to add, considering that if they do need to do it that way, it would be a like insane amount of work. Especially since like doing that stuff in C++ is generally probably faster as well, because you can just type it out, especially with like IntelliSense, instead of like needing to like get in a node and I'm like pull off that node and I'm like getting in a new node and I'm pulling off that node. That is the thing that makes like things very, very slow. But if you could just like go in and type like get x dot get y, well, of course, like get x dot like get y dot this value dot whatever, like that. I don't know what to do. That's like a lot faster already. I know that not everybody like uses C++, but I do think that there is like some amount of fairness to assuming that if you're doing something like at a certain scale, that you have some people, like the majority of like the underlying code is going to be C++, because you're going to have like a programmer that works in C++. But not everybody, like there's a lot of people that like work on their own still and use like 100% blueprints. So for that's a little bit annoying, but I don't know that it's like from Epic's perspective, I don't know that that's necessarily going to be like worth it to like invest that much like effort into something that a relatively like small part of their like actual user base. And when I say actual user base, I mean the people that make them money. Because their actual user base is like huge at this point, obviously. But most people using it don't make them money. And at the end of the day, they are a company, right? So they need to make decisions based on what makes them money. Or what's fun, because fighting Apple does make them money, clearly. At this point, because they won. But I guess that's kind of like the cynical side of things, right? Is it would be a nice feature, but it's also a nice feature for the people that are least likely to like give them a return on that investment. Let's divide this by even more. I think even more, man. And there needs to be a little bit of randomness to like the waves themselves, because this is a little too uniform still. How are we going to do that? I guess we divide this by like a noise texture or something. People spend less time trying to get references that would make more money? I mean, not really. To be honest. Because, like, most people that use purely Blueprint aren't going to be, like, making the $1 million that's required to be even, like, paying Epic anything at all anyway. So it literally doesn't make Epic any money to, like, really, aside from creating a big user base where, like, a couple of people, like, shoot up into, like, that range where they become successful enough to have to pay Epic. But that's kind of like the weird thing with this, like, free to licensed model, is that you have, like, a huge part of your user base that you are not necessarily incentivized to, like, work for. Which creates a little bit of a conflict of, like, not a conflict of interest necessarily, but a conflict of direction, let's call it. To be clear, I much prefer that being, like, a little bit annoying to having to, like, pay a license to, like, use the engine at all. Because obviously that would be a lot worse. So it's a bit of, like, ideally they would, and they do, also, like, put in a lot of effort for, like, people that are, like, not actively making the money to, like, make the engine as approachable as possible, so that people, like, look into it, and that then gets them eventually into, like, having a certain subsection of those people be profitable for them. Pretty unrelated. I do think they're trying to enlarge the user base over just money. In the end, it's a company and they want money. And, like, enlarging your user base is definitely something that they're doing. Like, that's definitely part of their current strategy. But in the end, even with that larger user base, there's going to be the subsection of people that they make money on that they obviously, like, need to put more focus on. But you're right. They're definitely, like, the whole thing, like, for Blueprint, like, to exist, and a lot of, like, their communication and, like, their PR, they're definitely, like, looking for as big of a user base as possible. Anyway, ZAC-D style videos in Unreal. I don't know what ZAC-D style videos are. Let me, like, do I know that? I mean, if you feel like making a certain type of video, you should make that type of video. ZAC-D Films. Never heard of this guy. He's got 20 million subs? Holy shit. He's got, like, 6 videos? What the hell is this channel, dude? It's got to be 6 really good videos, man. Probably could have checked that out at some point. I think we might want to, like, add in a banner here, right? Just get this and, like, add in a banner. That direction. Probably a little slower than that, actually. And, like, divide by this times 10 instead. This might be really fucky, to be clear. Oh, watch the shorts. That makes sense.
If a volcano erupted, you'd probably try to outrun the lava flow, but it can move up to 20 miles per hour and could even set you on fire without ever touching you. That's because the real threat is the intense heat it radiates. It can reach over 1,000 degrees.
Okay, so it's that type of video. Yeah, okay. Kind of makes sense why that's a successful channel, especially if you're like making a bunch of these types of shorts. 1 million subs suddenly makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It's a lot of work for a short though. I mean, some of these are getting like 10 million views, but I'm gonna be that guy that says even with like 10 million views, you're like making not that much money. Then again, if you can make this in like a day or two, you probably can make like a decent amount of money if you get that amount of views, which you probably won't. He does, but most people won't. But yeah, you're probably like you're getting about like $50 a million views of shorts, as far as I know. Why are you? Oh, that just needs to be red. Sure. Yeah, unless you live as what the hell? No, 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 no! Don't do that. Hold the fuck on. Yeah, unless you live in like some area of the world where money is like relatively worth less, worth more, where you need less money comparatively, like in US dollars to survive. It's not worth it to focus solely on stuff. Why is there like this little thing that's also, I don't know. I think I need to multiply this by a. I need to divide it. So yeah, I don't think this whole thing with the noise texture is working that well. I think what I need to do. It is kind of a weird fun effect though. I think what I need to do instead is I need to make this into a. What the fuck? Shorts pay between 10 and 13 cents per 1k views. I mean, in my experience, they pay less than that even. Shorts are really shit. If you have shorts that like link to something that can actually make you money, they might make sense a little bit more. Which is like full-length videos or like something that like gets you through to like some kind of store, or if you get like super popular, like I have seen creators use shorts to like sell sponsorships on, but that's very rare to see. Like I've seen Linus Tech Tips do that, and I've seen like one other dude do that, and the other dude did it very badly because it was just a short that was a sponsorship. Like, don't do that. So like even that angle of like monetizing the content doesn't really like work that well. So yeah, I think what I need to do is I think I need to make this into a material function and just put a couple of these back to back. So if we collapse this into a function, sure. We just make a couple of inputs. Scalar. Call this the speed. Function inputs, the sign period. Wait, you can't set that. That's not ideal. So how do we best do that? I made one with meta-humans about taboo subject and I only got 3.6k views. Yeah. 3.6k is pretty good, like, for a channel that doesn't, like, have maybe, like, a lot of, like, usual traffic. 3.6k is pretty good. My shows get, like, 1,000. They're also much less, like, actual, like, short content, as in good short content. They're very much just ads for my full videos. Like 90% of the time. Like, I have that one short that has like 1.5 million views or something, but even that is effectively just an ad for the longer video. Anyway, so the sign, okay, this is kind of an issue because I need to be able to set the sign of the period of this sign. Why can't I set, why is that not an input pin, man? What the fuck? Has anybody run this before? Unreal, material, sign, node, period, input. Oh, my own video about sign nodes. Fantastic. Surely there's got to be something that you can set dynamically, right? There's no way that that's kind of messed up. Because otherwise, I don't know, man. Because the issue is what we do now, right? This is the time, so that is how fast the ripples move. This is the height of the ripples. This is the width of the ripples. I want all three to be adjustable. Because what I want to do is I want to make a couple of different layers of ripples that move at different speeds, have different width, and different height. I guess I can just replicate what the sign node does. Where value input of 1 corresponds to 2 times pi radians. I don't really know how to like remake sign from the ground up. This is weird. Unreal set sign period to parameter. Scaling a sign node, yeah. Lerp between two values using a linear sign as the alpha. That doesn't help at all. Well, I guess what I can do is make this one. I guess I can do this. I guess that technically works. It's really dumb, but I guess that technically works. Because linear interpolate will also like extrapolate like above the value of 1. So I can make it like bigger or smaller. So I think, yeah, that should pretty much work, I think. So yeah, one last input, and that will be the heights. Don't know what I call this. Input speed. I think as the height value increases, the actual height might decrease, but we'll see. So we set this to 0.2 before, and then the height was 50. And then the speed was, I don't know, like 10. So what is actually the problem now? Not enough components in... Oh, it thinks that this is a scalar. What the hell? No, 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 no. You are vector 2, man. Okay. 1 million views is awesome. Yeah, it's on a Blender video, though. So, you know. Okay, so why aren't you doing... I guess that means that this trick doesn't work. So just set this to 0.2 again. Surely that means that it's gonna work. Yeah. Ah, that's annoying. Oh, that does work. Never mind. Okay, cool. So now what I can do, in theory, is just put these in as the texture coordinates for this. And can I just like make these exposed or anything? Like parameterize them? Use preview as default. Input type, parameters. Can I would like to just have these as like values that I can like type in, if at all possible. But that might not be possible. Yeah, I don't think it is. Oh well, we'll just do it this way then. So let's say that the speed, I'm actually gonna just put this one in there for now. I want the speed for the next ones to be like faster. So I think that means that I need this to be a lower value, right? Which is very counterintuitive, but it does. And then I want these to be thinner ripples, so that also needs to be a higher value. Nowadays, need to be a lower value, I think. Definitely I need to like make this differently. I don't think this it's just like clamped at, oh, it's clamped at that because this is, yeah. So this should just be like 0.01. Just wasn't working because I think, because it doesn't work with sine being 0, I assume. So yeah, these are super tiny now. So let's just do 0.1. Why does that suddenly like do weird stuff? So it should interpolate that pretty nicely, you would imagine. But it doesn't. Oh, there we go. So we put this now to 0.05. That's about as thin as we're ever going to need it to be. And then we probably want this to be a little higher. So then if we put that into there. Ooh, no, that ain't it. This needs to be like 250. Oh, no, don't do that. I think the issue is actually that this one is also messed up now. Yeah. So what if I put just at 1, 0.5, 0.7? 0.9. Yeah, so now we have these two like different things on top of each other. Well, no, we don't. Just looks like it. But now if we add this back on top, now we have, yeah, okay. So that's starting to look a little bit more like what I was looking for. So let's do one more layer of this. Where we do... Let's do slower. Somewhere in between, again, the ancient art of pulling numbers out of your ass. And then the height we're going to set to like 2000. I think that's a pretty good heat distortion effect. For now. Good enough. So let's add that in. I don't know why we spent an hour making a heat distortion effect, because it's like not actually that important, but fucking here we are. As a reference, post-process, material, heat waves. I think it's a little too fast. It also kind of messes with the edges of your screen, like a lot. But it just stretches the last pixel that it finds. Is that something that we can set up in the material? I don't think so. Yeah, because it's just a texture, right? So there's no like... At the very best, we could like wrap it, but that's going to be even worse, most likely. So yeah, let's... when we destroy this actor, what we'll do... Ooh, that's a good question. Because I probably want to do this on a like, timeline, so that it fades out a little bit. Can do like over like 0.15 seconds times 0, value 1. And when that finishes, we'll destroy the actor, but for now we'll post-process this to... what is it again? This is why it's nice to be able to pull things in. You're right. Is it like get material or whatever? No, we don't need to get material. We just need to get blend weight. There we go. But we don't need to get it, we need to set it. Set blend weight. There, much easier. But we do want the sphere to immediately set visibility to not be visible anymore. So that should, in theory... We probably also want to animate in the blend weight. probably want to animate in the blend weight. Which is actually, we can do that super easy because we already have a timeline that blends in our meteor as it comes in. So we can just use that. Assets, meteor. Steal these two nodes. Because this already goes from 0 to 1, so we can just use that same float. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. And then we need to have a better impact visual for it as well. But that's probably not going to be like a today type of deal. There's room for improvement. Because it still does kind of just cut in. That makes sense. That makes sense, actually. That makes total sense. Because where the hell did I put it? There we go. Because the default for it, obviously, is 1. So the default blend weight should be 0, because it doesn't start blending in from 0.1, from 0 to 1, rather. Until 0.6 seconds in. So this might still not look great, but it blends in a lot better. And then the blend out is a little too slow still. But that should just be a matter of going in here and making that just longer. And then the actual post-processing we can mess around with at our leisure whenever we want. It just does kind of cut out at some point, which is not great. So why does it... What actually happens? Because I feel like it doesn't finish blending out. And for this I have a thing that slows down global time dilation, so that I can look at things real fucking slow. It's going to take a moment. That's just... There we go. It didn't blend out at all. Why did it not blend out? Why does it not blend out? Why do you not do the thing? Do I need to play from start? What's the issue? Oh, it also should definitely not set visibility within the loop. maybe don't do that. Not a big deal necessarily, but also don't do that. Maybe. The blend weight does go down to like 0. Why does it not blend out? I don't know. It's a mystery. I also haven't had Twitch chat open this entire time. Not that anybody is in there, probably. Yeah. Surprise. Just gonna put in a print string there real quick to make sure that it does actually run. It should. It's connected up and everything. Well, you never know. It's going to be printing it a lot because it's going to take a while. Yeah, so it does do that, but it doesn't... the material doesn't blend out properly. The material doesn't blend out properly. But it does blend in properly? What the fuck? Because when I do this... like the material stuff? Also, just like... oh, it just cuts in. So the material doesn't... okay, so that's good to know about blending. That's the thing that I had an issue with before, probably. Is materials don't blend in at all. They just exist or they don't. You do need to like separately set those up to blend. Because they do have a separate like material blend, right? So can we like get post process materials? Unreal. Get post process material blueprints. Because you can blend them, right? Like just before we try to like get this value. If I why is it not doing any post processing now? Oh, because it has its blend set to 0. Oh, fucking of course. Yeah, so if I go in here and I go back in here and I now set this. Okay, so the material is just, in this case, a matter of it works or it doesn't work. It goes a little faster, I suppose, but it's... probably need to scale this with, well, a material parameter collection, then maybe. I guess. Yeah, let's make one of those again. Wait, where is it? Oh, there. Unreal, please. Don't die on me. It's a good moment to take a sip of water. Stay hydrated, everybody. Stay hydrated. I'm gonna lose my shit. How much did I lose? How much did I lose? Mostly a bunch of experimentation is what I lost, if I lost anything. But I don't think I've saved in a moment. So that's one of the things that Unreal could do a little bit better at, is auto-saving assets. I know that's kind of like what versioning is also for, not being able to like, or not being afraid to like save over things, but man, just keeping like a last 5 version history of like autosaves doesn't even need to necessarily override the actual like asset, right? Because it has this like restore thing when you reopen Unreal after it like crashes or anything. Just like keep track of, and I know that this would blow project sizes so big, but still. Just keep track of like a couple of autosaves. Even if it's just 1 per asset. Okay. Meteor spawns in a Meteor blueprint, which has... do you have the post-processing material yet? That's really the thing that I want to know. You do. Okay, so we're actually not that far off. All that we need to do in that case is make the parameter collection. Oh, I guess now that we have this, I can also make a setting for outline thickness. Could be interesting. Let's just call this heat waves. Default value, I guess, 0. We're only going to be spawning in one of these at a time, because I'll just make the cooldown for it like 10 seconds. So otherwise, multiple of these are going to be trying to influence this value at the same time, and it's going to be a mess. Set parameter. Set scalar value. I know it's on the other monitor, but I'll actually put it on the main monitor. Should at least have quick auto backups like Blender does with Blend 1 files. Yeah, so that's kind of like that's what Blender does for like backup stuff, right? It's just effectively that's an autosave in like a specific file format that's like slightly different. The difference obviously being is that Unreal would need to do that for every asset in the project. Which means that effectively like your entire project will instantly double in size. And this project folder is already like 60 gigabytes or something like that. Maybe even more. With Blender, that's also obviously a thing, because Blender, you have effectively just a second copy of your entire project. But those files don't tend to get as big. So I kind of get why they don't do it. But at least do it for like blueprints and stuff. Right? I understand that you don't do it for maybe like textures and meshes, because those are like actually like storage heavy. But blueprints are just code, man. There's no reason not to do it for that. I think. But yeah, let's set this instead that way. Well, we also do need to like actually blend in the post-process itself, so we need to do both. I think about it, because we still have some color grading stuff going on as well. And then in here we also do that. And then in our post-processing material, which is not in here. It's somewhere. It's in assets, surely. Heat waves, there we go. Can we just question, or we can question, obviously, can we just loop texture chords? Can we just loop this between this and that? Will that work? I think the answer looks like a yes. Okay, so that's 0. Oh yeah, man. And then actually that's decided to like whatever the fuck we want, right? We can loop this beyond the value of 1 if we wanted to. So yeah, we started the stream with talking about material parameter collections, and now I actually like found a use for doing one. Can even do it the other way if I really wanted to. So yeah, useful stuff. Again, there's only one of these values in the entire project, so if I spawn in 2 meteors, they're going to be conflicting, they're going to do like weird stuff. So the solution to that is just don't spawn in more than 1 meteor. Or make it a dynamic material instance, but again, I can't quickly figure out how to apply dynamic material instance to a post-processing volume. I'm sure it's possible. I just don't know how. So this is, for the time being, easier. Maybe we'll go back around and make it a dynamic material at some point, but you know, if this works, and it's a very like, I was gonna freak out there. It's a very like end game, very costly thing anyway. But that looked pretty decent, aside from the fact that it got in hard in the start. But that is an issue with. Ooh, what is that an issue with? Is that an issue with it not setting the blend weight to 0 at the start here yet? Yeah, that's what that is. Well, no, yes, yes, no, 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 yes, no, maybe, hold on. Yeah, blend weight should be 0 at the start. That's one of those things that just didn't save a moment ago. So, trying that again. Right button. Yeah, okay, so now it blends out. Sweet. Camera shake. We're not going to be doing anything else useful today anyway. So let's just do material or meteor thing only. I guess we also... What's the best way to do the camera shake thing? Because I want those to ideally also ramp up in intensity, maybe. Guess we can play a world camera shake. With the epicenter being... Well, maybe don't do that every frame. When this starts... I wanted to... The thing is, I wanted to keep shaking for as long as this thing exists. And the camera shake itself is just a preset with a predetermined length. Where the fuck even is it? Oh, there it is. So this is just a shake pattern with a like duration and a blend in and out time. So that's not what I want to do actually. So I guess what I need to do would be finishing this sentence. And then this might be like a really good reason to like start playing with gameplay cameras. Because there's a couple of other things that I also probably want to set up gameplay cameras for at some point. But I don't want to start doing that right now. So alternatively I could like get the player's camera manager and like hard code it that way. But it would need to like not just be a random value every frame, because that would be bad. Yeah, I think the camera shake is a little too out there for now to like really do the way that I would like it to do. Isn't there any way to just make a continuous camera shake? Camera shake source component. Creates a new component that assigns ownership to the actor that is called for automatic attachment, causes the first component created to become the root. All subsequent components to be attached under that root, be manual attachment, blah, 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 blah. Do not call manually. Blueprint internal use only. Add component nodes. What does a camera shake source? I mean, we can just add that to this. Camera shake source. I haven't used that before. I guess this is what I need it to be. Is it? Let's just do one of these and then we copy it over and put in some new values for it. I also don't know why this camera thing is... Oh, it's because it's pre-packed with an asset. Sure. Sure, man. Why not? Single instance. If true, only allow a single instance of the camera shake to play at a given time. Subsequent plays will try to simply restart the timer. Oh, but that's what we need, right? Because we can just set the timing of this to like 0.1 seconds and then... I don't know if this is... Let's just roll with this. Like, this is terrible, probably the way to do it, but this is the way that I'm going to do it for now. Just play that as a world camera shake on tick. I can just start that when it starts moving. Epicenter can be get actor location. Inner radius, let's set that to like 1500 or something, and the outer radius to like 3000, just random numbers. Orient shake towards epicenter, I don't care. So this should not restart the shake, but it should just restart the 0.1 second timer to end the shake every frame. Which I think is pretty much what I want. Yeah, that wasn't a shake at all. I don't know, man. That wasn't really like... Nothing was happening there. But it's also because the amplitude for all of this is 1. So hey, maybe set this to like 50. And this to like 4. That might help. Yeah, that's definitely a camera shake, alright. And it ends when... Okay, so, fantastic. So it doesn't even need a camera shake component. You get rid of that. I keep forgetting that I have 2 windows open for some reason. Unless this is actually the thing that's doing it and not the thing in Eventic. But I think it's the thing in Eventic that's doing it. I have to assume. Or they're both doing the same thing. Yeah, a lot of fine-tuning needed for like everything involved there. It's like things aren't really coming together yet for this effect. Also, there's no impact effect, so that doesn't help. But that seems pretty good. But I do think that we're going to leave it there for now. We made Meteor. So yeah, I'm decently happy with the basic idea of the meteor attack. It's a little green, and not quite like fire and brimstone enough. Probably should be a little bit more red, but that's again just a matter of just hey, let's open up this thing and then do the thing and the thing, and the other thing. Can just pull this in. Put this into the world. Set the blending for this thing to be at 1. Which is actually kind of nice because it doesn't have the like waviness now to it, because that's the parameter. in our collection. And then we just post-process, and we can go, actually, I didn't really super love the way that the temperature is dealing with this, so let's tone that down a little bit, and instead maybe just set our global saturation can be like a little, it's already pretty high actually, so maybe not saturation. Add like a little bit more red. Oh, that's maybe a little too much redness. Just add generally a little bit more redness to the offset here. Again, a bit too much. It's not super real time, which is annoying. I think the shadows can do with maybe being... Maybe the shadows can be like a different color. Maybe the shadows can be like a little bit more purpley. I'm just going crazy with the colors now, okay? And then I think the highlights, like making the highlights actually like... Well, maybe not that bright red, but like actually... Well, that's maybe a bit too pink. It's the issue though. Light red is just pink. And then the midtones we can set to be like maybe just the way that they are. Yeah, I think this is a little too overcooked. I'm gonna be real with you. I think that this is a little too like burned out. we need to tone it down again a bit. But that's what happens with color grading, man. It's just like you play around with it a bunch. In action, it's actually not that horrible. In action, it's actually less horrible than I thought it was going to be. Cool. So, yeah, thanks everybody for joining in and hanging out and having fun. And maybe not having fun. Why are you here if you're not having fun? And I will be back on Tuesday, by which time hopefully I will feel a bit better. I've been kind of like on the edge of, am I going to get sick or am I not going to get sick? And my body is like, hey, go ahead and feel like shit. But we're not going to make you sick. We're just going to make you like tired. Right? You're just going to be tired and have a bit of an upset stomach, which is going to be like just a general shit feeling. That's just what I've been for like a week. So hopefully it'll be a little bit better by Tuesday. And if not, at least fucking just make me sick, dude. Just let me be sick.